My husband and I shared a loving marriage until his passing. When I discovered his diary, its pages were filled with his love for Lin Meow Meow, but because I had supported his education and he felt indebted to me, he couldn't bring himself to leave me. They were star-crossed in this life, destined to reunite only in the next. Lin Meow Meow was the daughter of our housekeeper, given a second chance at life. I've decided to let them be together. The September heat had finally begun to subside. During the break, I stood by the edge of the playground, gulping down bottled water. In my past life, just days after reading Xiaoming's diary, I passed away peacefully. I had hoped to meet my husband in the underworld and lay all my cards on the table. 1. If he didn't love me, he could have just said so. It's not like he's my only option, after the divorce. He could have pursued a relationship with Lin Meow Meow in our previous life instead of carrying regrets and praying for a second chance in the next, but to my surprise, when I opened my eyes, I found myself back in high school. Recalling the contents of my diary from my past life, I felt a dull ache in my heart, along with an overwhelming sense of disgust. Xiaoming, Lin Meow Meow, and I were high school classmates, during our senior year, when we were gearing up for the college entrance exams. He had to drop out due to his grandmother's medical expenses. He was a top student, consistently ranking first every year. Everyone believed he was a shoo-in for Tsinghua or Peking University, with a bright future ahead. I couldn't bear to see such talent go to waste over financial struggles, so I took on his grandmother's medical bills and supported him through high school, college, master's, and doctoral studies. Xiaoming lived up to expectations, joining the National Research Institute right after graduation and eventually becoming a renowned scientist. In the years that followed, we got married, raised children, and shared a loving bond that lasted a lifetime. Had I not read his diary, I would never have known that he had always loved Lin Meow Meow. My financial support became a chain that bound him to me out of obligation, but when I supported him, I never expected anything in return. I simply didn't want to see talent go to waste. It was he who, after accepting my support, took the initiative to tutor me, and after we got into university, he was the one who pursued me. The thought of him thinking of Lin Meow Meow while being intimate with me in our past life makes me sick to my stomach. Jia, look, it's Senior Xia, Lin Meow Meow squealed in a hushed whisper right by my ear. I followed the sound and saw Xiaoming standing under the shade of a tree, young and somewhat awkward, yet undeniably handsome. A sharp, lingering pain pierced my heart again. After all, I had loved him for decades, but he doesn't seem very happy, Lin Meow Meow whispered, then volunteered. I'll go ask if he's run into some trouble. She's always like this, so warm-hearted and kind. Lin Meow Meow is Aunt Chen's daughter. When I was 10, something terrible happened to their family. Her husband passed away unexpectedly, and she and Lin Meow Meow were kicked out by his family with nothing. Aunt Chen had no choice but to bring her daughter along to work. My parents were initially against the idea, but 10-year-old Meow Meow won everyone over with her bubbly personality and cheerful chatter. Much like a lively oriole, they quickly warmed up to her infectious energy and grew fond of her. Upon learning we were the same age, my parents decided to keep Aunt Chen employed and have Meow Meow keep me company. That's how she ended up living with us, attending the same elementary, middle, and high school together. Knowing Aunt Chen was struggling financially, my parents covered her tuition and living expenses. Petite in stature, she stood before Xiaoming, head tilted upward, speaking words he couldn't discern, her face radiant with a brilliant smile. Xiaoming once wrote in his diary that it was Lin Meow Meow's particular act of kindness that made this young girl take root in his heart. Her fiery passion shone like a brilliant sun, illuminating his gloomy world. It wasn't long before Lin Meow Meow came running back to share the news she'd gathered with me. With a crestfallen look, she said, Jia, Xiaoming is about to drop out of school. His grandmother is seriously ill and needs 100,000 yuan for surgery, but his family is too poor. He has no choice but to quit school and work to earn money. Then, as if firming up her resolve, she tentatively asked me, Jia, could you lend me 50,000 yuan for now? I have 50,000 saved up myself. I want to lend it to him for the emergency. He's such a good student. It'd be such a shame for him to drop out like this, just like in my past life. I smiled upon hearing this and said, I know how hard you worked to save that 50,000. Don't go throwing it away. Let me handle the good deed this time. Without a second thought, I immediately transferred my entire month's allowance to Xiaoming so he could get his grandmother the medical treatment she needed. My family founded the largest local supermarket chain in town. While we're not the wealthiest, money has never been an issue for us. Hearing those same words now, I shook my head apologetically and said, "Did you forget? I donated everything to the flood relief efforts in Jin County just 2 days ago, too. Since Xiaoming sees my financial support as a burden, I'll put the money to better use, in this lifetime. I won't hold him back anymore." As for his relationship with Lin Miao Miao, that's something they'll have to nurture on their own. Oh right, Lin Miao Miao tapped her forehead. How could I have forgotten about that? But she had a solution. She immediately started a donation drive at school. Xiaoming didn't stop her, though his expression turned rather grim. It made sense. He's always been proud. In our previous life, only Lin Miao Miao and I knew about him almost dropping out when his grandmother fell ill. I resolved his problem before he even had a chance to submit his withdrawal application, allowing him to continue his studies with dignity, but Lin Miao Miao's move nearly exposed his situation to the public. "I had no idea things were so tough for you. Here, take half of my living expenses for this month," said Xiaoming's deskmate. He's a rich kid who never takes his studies seriously and has been consistently ranked last in class. The teacher paired them together, hoping Xiaoming, the top student, would help the struggling one improve, but Xiaoming looked down on him and wouldn't acknowledge him unless he asked for help first. Now, the person he always disdained was looking at him with pity, leaving Xiaoming feeling helpless and humiliated, yet the other meant no harm, so he had no outlet for his frustration, especially not over 30,000 yuan, with everyone chipping in bit by bit. Along with Lin Miao Miao's 50,000, we managed to scrape together over 100,000 in total. Not only did Xiaoming get his grandmother the surgery, but he was also able to continue his studies. That evening, just as study hall ended, Lin Miao Miao bounded over to me with a grin. "Jiayi, great news. Xiaoming said he can tutor me, and I managed to snag a spot for you too." I took a step back and held her at arm's length. Ever since I found out about Xiaoming's feelings for her, I've held a grudge and couldn't maintain the same closeness we once had. I smiled and declined, "Thank you. But I've applied for off-campus housing, so I'm afraid I won't be able to take advantage of the top students' private tutoring." In the end, Xiaoming made the same decision as in our past life, except back then, he chose me and took the initiative to invite Lin Miao Miao. But in this life, he was dealing with Lin Miao Miao, and it was she who proactively asked on my behalf, which is how I got the spot. It turns out that even in our past life, he had already shown favoritism in these small things. But I was so captivated by his good looks that I fell for him and didn't notice. "Why?" Lin Miao Miao's jaw dropped. "Why so sudden?" "It's not that sudden. I only applied for 2 years of accommodation in the first place. My parents initially objected to me boarding at school, concerned about the poor dorm conditions and overcrowding. However, Lin Miao Miao persuaded me that it was a chance to experience communal living and prepare for university." Convinced by her reasoning, I insisted on staying in the dorm. My parents agreed to 2 years, on the condition that I return home for my final year of high school. Now I truly admire their foresight. "Huh, why didn't you tell me?" Lin Miao Miao exclaimed in surprise. I frowned, feeling somewhat annoyed by her remark. Just then, Hui, our roommate, walked over. She curled her lip and sneered, "Oh, who do you think you are? Does the young miss need to report everything to you?" "That's not what I meant," Lin Miao Miao said while glancing around nervously, unusually refraining from her usual verbal sparring with the roommate she never got along with, clearly a guilty conscience. Hui's words really opened my eyes. Over the years, Lin Miao Miao always seemed to pry into every detail of my personal life under the guise of caring about me. I never guarded myself around her and always spoke my mind freely. She knows everything about me, but I barely know anything about her. That's just terrifying. Then she quickly added, "We grew up together, ate and lived together, never apart. Now that you're suddenly moving out, I'm just not used to it." Aunt Chen retired last year, so Lin Miao Miao no longer had an excuse to stay at my place. Even if she applied for off-campus housing too, she'd just go back to that rundown little place her mom bought. After all, we're not blood sisters. Sooner or later, we'll go our separate ways. 3. From then on, during every break, lunchtime, or any free moment, Xiaoming would hover around Lin Miao Miao, helping her tackle tough problems and review key concepts. Since Lin Miao Miao was my deskmate, it was impossible not to notice everything they were up to. In this life, without my interference, Xiaoming got exactly what he wanted. I thought he would be overjoyed, but every time he tutored Lin Miao Miao, he wore a stern expression without a trace of a smile, growing even more aloof. Meanwhile, Lin Miao's cheeks flushed pink. Her eyes sparkling as she looked at Xiaoming. I could read her gaze. It held admiration, reverence, and even attachment, because, in my past life, I used to look at him the same way. Noticing my gaze, Lin Miao shot me a glance, her eyes carrying an unmistakable warning. Then she smiled and said, "Jiai, do you also want to listen to Xiaoming explain the problem? Just say so, no need to be sneaky about it. People might think you have a crush on our top student." As cheerful and straightforward as ever, but her words were laced with hostility. My expression darkened. "What nonsense are you talking? The school forbids puppy love. Don't go around making baseless accusations." "Humph, she's the one who likes it herself, shamelessly thinking everyone else is just like her," Huai said sarcastically from behind me. Lin Miao's face flushed crimson with anger, but she held back from making a scene in front of the top student Xia. Biting her lip, she endured it, her eyes reddening as if she might burst into tears at any moment, looking both pitiful and fragile, exactly the kind of look that draws men in. Sure enough, Xiaoming's expression turned even colder. He shot Huai a glance that, though silent, could freeze a person to the bone. Huai awkwardly fell silent. I lowered my gaze to the book in my hands, yet couldn't suppress the bitterness welling up in my heart. In my past life, after Xiaoming tutored me, we spent more time together. And rumors gradually started to spread. "Xiao's such a sweetheart to Yao Jiai. Are they dating or something?" "No way, the school doesn't allow puppy love, they'd call our parents for sure." "Heh, this kind of thing, just between you and me, as long as we don't get caught and deny it to the bitter end, no one can do a thing about it." Xia, the top student, is so aloof. Yao Jiai must have been the one chasing after him. How shameless. All of these comments are working against me. I was trembling with rage. Stop talking nonsense. Xia is just tutoring me. Since when is he so kind? Did you seduce him? The more I denied it, the wilder the rumors became, yet Xiaoming acted as if nothing was wrong, neither clarifying nor defending me. The situation didn't calm down until the rumors reached the school. Teachers called in parents, and my furious father brought in the company lawyer to sue the main instigators. But now, Huai just made a sarcastic remark, and Xiaoming immediately jumped to her defense. It's true, the difference between love and indifference couldn't be more obvious. Still, there's no time left for wallowing in sentimentality. These days, my life is nothing but studying, and more studying. Damn this wretched fate. Why couldn't I have been reborn after the college entrance exams? For, in my previous life, I lived to 80 decades had passed since those exams, and I'd long forgotten everything I'd studied back then. Still, I'm grateful that with a younger brain comes sharper thinking, coupled with my natural aptitude for learning. I'm picking things up surprisingly fast this time around. My grades weren't actually bad even without Xiaoming's tutoring in my past life. I could have gotten into a decent university, but he was never satisfied. It seemed unless he could get me into Tsinghua or Peking University, he felt he'd failed to repay my financial support, driven by his relentless push. I studied like my life depended on it and eventually got into Tsinghua or Peking University alongside him, but it came at a cost. I developed neurasthenia and have suffered from chronic insomnia ever since, having lived a second life. I've gained a much clearer understanding of myself. As my parents' only daughter, I'm destined to take over the family supermarket someday. Combined with my past life experience, I've realized that sacrificing my health in the relentless pursuit of higher education just isn't worth it. For who I am now, a degree is more of a nice-to-have than a must-have, so I'm pacing myself, working within my limits, and no longer pushing myself to the brink with anxiety and stress, with great living conditions, delicious food, and a positive mindset. I soon noticed I was looking more beautiful and radiating energy, completely transformed from my former dispirited self. Meanwhile, Lin Miao was the exact opposite of me. Xiaoming stayed true to his mission. This time, with Lin Miao as his beneficiary, he was determined to get her into Tsinghua or Peking University. But Lin Miao's academic performance was just average. If I was only a step away from Tsinghua or Peking, she was miles behind. I have no idea where Xiaoming found the confidence. Lin Miao was forced by Xiaoming to study around the clock every day. In less than 2 months, she developed sunken eyes, sallow skin, and lost all her vitality, becoming listless and disoriented. I don't know if it's just my imagination, but every time Xiaoming came to tutor Lin Miao, I kept feeling like someone was glancing my way. Yet whenever I looked up, no one seemed to be watching me. I shook my head. thinking it might just be a hallucination from all the stress. Then one Friday, after evening self-study, Lin Miao Miao stopped me. Her face was grim, and her words were sharp right from the start. Yao Jiai, don't you dare use your looks to seduce Xiaoming. I was utterly confused, staring at her heavy dark circles and lifeless eyes, thinking she was just talking nonsense from exhaustion. So I decided to snap her out of it by throwing the wet towel in my hand right at her face. The chill of the cold water made her shiver, followed by a sharp scream. Yao Jiai, what the hell are you doing? Are you awake now? Look at the state you're in. You're here to study, not to flirt around. Have all those years of education gone to waste? All you talk about is seduction and men. Do you have no shame? Is this how you repay Aunt Chen and your teacher's guidance? Lin Miao Miao frantically threw down the towel, her eyes red and glaring. What I do is none of your business. You have no right to lecture me. Mind your own affairs, if I catch you seducing. Before she could finish, I threw a glass of ice water at her. Lin Miao Miao shuddered from the cold shock. Watch your mouth. Don't forget who's been paying for your education and living expenses all these years. You think you can threaten me? Lin Miao Miao seemed to regain some composure, though not much. She stopped cursing, but the malice in her eyes was unmistakable. Humph. With Brother Xiaoming's help, I'm going to Tsinghua or Peking University with him. You'll never outscore me. You're destined to be beneath my feet. After delivering her final threat, she stomped her foot and walked away. I don't know what magic love holds, or what power Xiaoming possesses, that could twist a once bright and lively girl into such a venomous person. It also confirmed my suspicion. The gaze I felt in the classroom wasn't just my imagination. Xiaoming really was watching me. Otherwise Lin Miao Miao wouldn't have confronted me in such a frenzy. I suddenly felt a wave of disgust, as if a cockroach had just scurried by. In my past life, I loved him, but his heart belonged to Lin Miao Miao, someone he could never have. In this life, I let him have his way, and now he's getting restless again. When I got home, I had my dad pull some strings and use his connections and money. The next day, I was transferred to Class 2 of grade 12. Both Class 1 and Class 2 are top-tier classes, sharing the same set of teachers, so the quality of education won't suffer. But I didn't let my guard down around Lin Miao Miao. Even though I haven't had much contact with Xiaoming in this life, she's shown intense hostility. What about in our past life? 5. I couldn't help but recall the rampant rumors back then. There were 5 people making the most noise, but I didn't know any of them. How did they find out about what happened between me and Xiaoming? I don't want to think the worst of people. But Lin Miao Miao's name kept flashing through my mind. I resorted to using my financial power and bribed the people around Lin Miao Miao. My threat must have worked, because she finally settled down and stopped causing trouble. She'd given all her money to Xiaoming, and if my family cut off her tuition and living expenses, she'd be the one dropping out of school next. After finishing my college entrance exams, I was about to check my scores when Dad sat on the couch with a book and said, "Don't stress, kiddo, we're not counting on your college degree to make money. Whatever score you get is fine." I sighed and said, "Dad, you're holding the book upside down." "Huh, oh." Dad promptly turned the book right side up. Mom scoffed, "Lao Yao, with that attitude, you still have the nerve to comfort our daughter." I sighed again. "Mom, you're using my foundation." "Huh, oh." Dad burst out laughing. Mom's eyes widened in shock. Seeing they were about to come to blows, I quickly interjected, "It's out. My total score is 702, that's 7 points lower than my previous life. If the cutoff remains unchanged, I'd just miss Tsinghua and Peking University, but getting into University A is a sure bet." I'd expected this outcome, so I wasn't too disappointed. Dad tossed the book aside, rose from the couch, and rubbed his hands together, saying, all right, I'll definitely throw you a grand celebration for getting into college." Just then, the class group chat lit up. I opened my phone and saw a bold, pinned message at the top. Lin Miao Miao and Xiaoming had tied for the same score. My jaw dropped slightly as I asked in disbelief, "Is this for real?" I wasn't the only one shocked. Quite a few people had already started questioning it before I even chimed in. "It's absolutely true. They both scored 412, revealed the class monitor. Addressing the group chat fell silent. Everyone had assumed Lin Miao Miao would follow Xiaoming to Tsinghua or Peking University, but it turned out Xiaoming was following her to a vocational college. Monitor, where did you get this news? I typed and asked. I have full confidence in Xiaoming's abilities. Even if he took the test blindfolded, there's no way he would score this low. Isn't my family the one that runs the internet cafe? Those two came here together to check their scores and they're still here, the class monitor replied. I can confirm, I just arrived at the internet cafe and Xiaoming and Lin Miao Miao are in the middle of an argument, my deskmate said in the group chat, along with an uploaded video. The video clearly shows Lin Miao Miao and Xiaoming as the main subjects. With bloodshot eyes, Xiaoming yelled at Lin Miao Miao, "Are you happy now? No need to worry about not getting into Tsinghua or Peking University and being separated from me." After saying that, he slammed the water bottle and his hand onto the ground. Lin Miao Miao stood aside, her face pale as a sheet. Having lived with Xiaoming for decades in her previous life, he had always been aloof and refined, never losing his composure like this before. Does anyone know what happened? The top student totally bombed the exam. Did he fall asleep during the test? Someone asked curiously. First-hand info. It's true, someone with a Class 1, senior year tag suddenly chimed in. Hey, how did a traitor sneak into our class group? Another person remarked. The class monitor quickly explained, he's not a traitor, this is Xiao Yi, the top student's roommate and exam hall mate. His explanation was too long to relay, so I just added him to the group temporarily. As soon as the class monitor finished speaking, a string of thumbs-up emojis flooded the chat. I'll continue then, Xiao Yi said. Haha, even though it's never been said outright, everyone probably knows that Xiaoming and Lin Miao Miao are an item. The top student gives Lin Miao Miao extra tutoring every day, but those materials don't just appear out of thin air. After returning to the dorm every night, Xiao works on organizing them until 2 or 3 in the morning. Even during the 2 days of the college entrance exam, he wouldn't take a break. We all urged him to rest, but he said Lin Miao Miao was afraid she wouldn't get into Tsinghua or Peking University and would be separated from him. To reassure Lin Miao Miao, he had no choice but to keep studying question patterns, making predictions, and solving problems. He must have been exhausted. He dozed off during both exams on the final day. 6. That's something I didn't know, after all. The people I bribed were all girls around Lin Miao Miao. In September, my parents dropped me off at University A for registration, and at the gate, I spotted 2 familiar figures. Xiaoming was lugging 2 large suitcases, while Lin Miao Miao carried a backpack. Both of them had grown noticeably thinner and tanner. I heard they'd worked like crazy over the summer and applied for student loans just to scrape together the tuition. And their school turned out to be the vocational college right across the street. Lin Miao Miao also spotted me and curled her lip dismissively. Getting into a university is nothing special. If you're so capable, why not aim for Tsinghua or Peking University? I let out a cold laugh. Sure, a university can't compare to Tsinghua or Peking, but it's still better than a vocational college. Lin Miao Miao flushed red in an instant. Furious and embarrassed, what's there to gloat about? We just underperformed on the exam. We're only at a vocational college temporarily. We'll upgrade to a bachelor's, then pursue a master's and a PhD. We'll definitely surpass you. Coming from financially struggling families, they couldn't afford to retake the exams. Attending a vocational college was both a forced choice and their best available option. I glanced at Xiaoming. If he was having an off day, I could believe that. But Lin Miao Miao, that's just her usual level. I wonder if after going through the college entrance exams, he'll still be dragging her along to push forward. Xiaoming grew impatient, grabbing Lin Miao Miao's hand. Enough already, aren't you embarrassed? Hurry up and go register, or we'll miss out on the good dorm beds. Seeing Xiaoming appear before us, Lin Miao Miao suddenly looked nervous. She first stepped between him and me, then turned and quickly pulled him away. Dad frowned. How did she end up like this? Wasn't she dating too young? That boy must have been a bad influence, Mom speculated. Alright, whatever she's up to, it's none of our business anymore. I reassured my parents as we entered university together. After graduating from college, I didn't pursue further studies and threw myself into running our family's supermarket. On Mom's birthday, Dad booked a restaurant early, while I ordered the cake and headed straight there with it come dinner time. I pushed open the private room door, but instead of the elderly couple, there was a British gentleman inside. I glanced up at the room number, 888, that was correct. I asked, puzzled, and you are? The man smiled gently and said, hello, I'm Feng Jing, your blind date. It suddenly dawned on me. No wonder my parents had been acting so strangely the past couple of days. They were secretly planning this all along. I couldn't help but find it rather amusing. It's not like it's some shameful secret. So why all the secrecy? Hello, I'm Yao Jiai. I introduced myself confidently as I walked in. In this lifetime, I no longer crave romance, but I do want children. and our family needs an heir, so I'm not opposed to arranged meetings. To my surprise, we had a lot in common and really hit it off. Just then, the private room door suddenly swung open, and a man in blue work clothes burst in. His face was slightly tanned, a mix of anger and delight in his expression. Yao Jiai, I'm your real husband. It was actually Xiao Ming. Since starting college, I've been juggling studies with helping my parents run their supermarket, leaving no extra time to keep up with those two. I only heard occasionally from old classmates that both of them failed again during the college upgrade exams and didn't get into their desired universities. Left with no other choice, they ended up working in a factory. At this point, Xiao Ming's hands were covered in machine oil. His work clothes were filthy. And it's a mystery how the hotel even let him in looking like that. But what made me nervous and scared was what he said. It seemed like he had been reborn too. I forced myself to stay calm and looked at him with displeasure. So it's you, Xia. Out of respect for our past connection, I'll let your earlier remarks slide, but stop spreading rumors. We're nothing more than former classmates. If I hear anything like that again, you'll be hearing from my lawyer. I'm not making this up, Xiao Ming said. Growing agitated, Jiai, you don't understand. I've been reborn. The truth is, I had a crush on you back in senior year, but Lin Miao Miao had done so much for me, and she was incredibly possessive. I didn't want to betray her, so I forced myself to bury my feelings for you. But just moments ago, I was reborn. That's when I realized, in our past life, we were married, we shared a lifetime of love together. You have no idea how overjoyed I am. I thought I was destined for unrequited love. Only to realize I had already possessed it all along. In this lifetime, I don't want to live with regrets. Jiai, will you marry me again? As for Lin Miao Miao, I've already helped her plenty. Besides, it's because of her that I missed out on college, so consider my debt to her repaid. My gaze turned icy. Xia, have you been binge-watching too many web dramas? This story you've concocts is utterly absurd. Reincarnation. Why not claim you have superpowers while you're at it? I'm not lying to you. In my past life, I was a renowned scientist. We even had a beautiful son together. But before he could finish his sentence, several burly security guards burst in and immediately restrained him. Pinned face down on the floor, Xiao Ming shouted at the guards, "What are you doing? Do you have any idea who I am? I'm a national treasure-level scientist." It seems like his mind is overwhelmed with past life memories, to the point where he's struggling to distinguish between his previous existence and reality. A security guard spat at him. With those work clothes, you just got off shift at the steel mill, and you call yourself a scientist. The head of security apologized to us, saying, "Mr. Feng, Miss Yao, our apologies for the oversight. We'll remove him immediately and let you enjoy your meal in peace." So it was Feng Jing who had called security. Feng Jing reassured me softly, "Don't worry, I've seen plenty of people like this. Every day, women come up to me claiming to be my past life lovers wanting to rekindle our romance. But every time I check, they turn out to be scammers just after my money. That person probably has the same intention. To think more cynically, knowing you're an only child, they might even be after your family's entire fortune." His words made me laugh. "The way you put it, aren't you afraid I might suspect you of the same thing?" Though said in jest, it made me wonder, maybe Xiao Ming does have genuine feelings for me in this lifetime, but what really draws him in could be the practical benefits I bring. In my past life, not only did I fund his education, but I also pulled strings to connect him with mentors for his master's and doctoral degrees. Otherwise, how could he have landed a position at the National Academy of Sciences right after graduation? 7. Now, without my support, he's been reduced to an ordinary steel mill worker, struggling to make ends meet every day. Can he really handle such a drastic fall from grace? I don't need your family's measly pocket change. That's the truth. After all, Feng Jing, the CEO, comes from the wealthiest family in town. What's more, he's famously principled, a real outlier among the wealthy crowd. But how did such a catch end up in the dating market? When I voiced my confusion, Feng Jing sighed and said, "Seems you've really forgotten me." I looked at him, puzzled, and asked, "Have we met before?" But that doesn't make sense. President Feng had been living and studying abroad all this time, and only returned in recent years to take over the family business. He stared intently at me and suddenly said, "The kitchen maid, the shepherdess." My thoughts instantly drifted back to my grandmother's place. She lived in the countryside, and during every school break when my parents couldn't look after me, they'd send me to that little rural village. I'd help grandma with cooking by the firewood stove, tend to the sheep, and look after the chickens. There was no pressure at all. It was actually quite delightful. That annoying kid next door is such a pain, always giving me nicknames. We got into several fights over it. And it ended with me giving him even more nicknames. Your little blackie, charcoal ball, soot boy, wait, how come you're so pale now, and handsome? Feng tossed his hair and said, "Ha, that's what they call a man changes greatly at 18, actually, I've liked you for a long time, but I never found the right moment to confess." Looking into his eyes that were filled with me, I had to admit, damn it, my heart skipped a beat all over again, at the age when marriage felt right. We set our wedding date after 6 months of being together. What a coincidence, Xiaoming and Lin Miao Miao ended up getting married on the very same day as us. Our wedding banquet was held at the best hotel in the city, and Feng put a lot of effort into making it a grand and luxurious celebration. Lin Miao Miao and Xiaoming were at a modest restaurant across from our hotel, and the contrast made it look rather shabby in comparison. Before the wedding ceremony, I was resting in my hotel room and could see the restaurant opposite through the window. As the music started, a wedding motorcade pulled up in front of the restaurant, and Xiaoming helped Lin Miao Miao out of the car. I wondered if they sensed my gaze, as they both turned and looked in my direction. It should have been a joyous occasion, yet neither of their faces showed any sign of happiness. Just then, someone came to fetch me. The wedding ceremony between Feng and me was about to begin. After it was over, I was so exhausted that all I wanted was to collapse onto the bed, and that's exactly what I did. Feng thoughtfully suggested I rest in the guest room for a while, as the wedding festivities he had planned would last until the evening, giving me time to recharge. The moment I stepped into the guest room, a knife was pressed against my throat. Lin Miao Miao's eyes were red, her face full of resentment and bitterness. "Yao Jiai, why are you always so lucky? In your past life, you married Xiaoming, a brilliant scientist, wealthy and handsome. Now in this life, I finally get to marry him, but he's a penniless nobody, worse than my previous marriage. In my past life, she never showed any hostility toward me. We were always close friends, and I consistently supported her education, helped her integrate into our social circle, and enabled her to marry into a wealthy family. However, life among the elite wasn't easy, though her husband remained married to her. He had numerous affairs on the side. The drastic decline in her lifestyle fueled her jealousy and rage to the point of madness, driving her to take up the knife. Though terrified, I dared not reveal my reincarnated identity. Frowning, I retorted, "What nonsense are you spouting? My husband is Feng. What does Xiaoming have to do with any of this?" "Ha, you really have nothing to do with Xiaoming in this life. Yet you married even better. The Feng family is the wealthiest in the city. Your family isn't short on money, so why chase after someone even richer? Why not leave him for me? This way, you'd still be rich, and I'd get to be rich too. Isn't that perfect? But you just had to go for a power couple situation. What a waste." Even though Xiaoming agreed to marry me, his heart and eyes are still only on you. We're both human, so why have you been blessed with such good fortune in both past and present lives? Why must I always suffer? I tilted my head back slightly. Lin Miao Miao's hands trembled with agitation, the knife tip grazing my neck and drawing a thin line of blood. 8. Just then, a foot came sweeping through the air with a sharp, whistling sound. Caught off guard and completely unprepared, Lin Miao Miao failed to dodge in time. A sharp pain shot through my wrist, and the knife flew from my grasp. Feng pulled me into his arms and asked anxiously, "Are you hurt?" I touched my neck and replied, "It's nothing, just a scratch." Feng glared coldly at Lin Miao Miao and scoffed, "Ha, reincarnation again. You've been watching too many short dramas. Your stories all follow the same tired cliches. Since you're so talented, why don't you weave your stories behind bars?" After the police arrived, they took Lin Miao Miao away. She was convicted of intentional assault. Xiaoming divorced her as well, but he remained disheartened and unfulfilled, working as a common laborer until his old age. Story 2. When Li Qin failed to arrive for the wedding procession at the appointed hour, I knew, he too had been reborn. In my past life, I was the paragon of wifely virtue that everyone praised. I paved his path to success, cared for his parents, managed our household with thrift, and hosted guests impeccably, never a single misstep. He despised me his entire life. All because Tangyiru, his unattainable first love, borrowed money from me for an abortion, only to lose her fertility forever in that back alley clinic. His white moonlight fled abroad, becoming Li Qin's lifelong regret. But, so after rebirth, Li Qin resolved to humiliate me on our wedding day as punishment. When he finally thought the punishment was enough and came knocking with betrothal gifts again, by then, I was already 8 months pregnant and had moved to the military base with my husband. Go check outside, the auspicious hour has passed. Why hasn't the groom's procession arrived? My parents and relatives were frantic, making trip after trip to the village entrance to peer down the road. After several agonizing hours of waiting, they sent multiple groups to inquire around Li Qin's house in the neighboring village. It was finally confirmed. The Li family had backed out of the marriage agreement. Father slammed the table in fury, his eyes blazing. This is outright bullying. They're deliberately humiliating our Huayan. They immediately summoned the matchmaker, determined to confront the Li family for an explanation. When we arrived, the gate was locked tight with no response from inside. My parents were exhausted and furious, completely drained. That very night after returning, they fell ill. The timing of my rebirth was slightly off. Watching my parents lying in bed, their faces etched with worry for me. Yet my heart overflowed with nothing but joy. In my past life, I entered the Li family's household with the dowry my parents had meticulously prepared. I dutifully served my in-laws and treated my sister-in-law with kindness. The Li family was poor, and I handled all their social obligations. When my sister-in-law Liana wanted to study abroad in '95, I had to sell my courtyard house to barely cover her expenses. With the substantial dowry I brought, Li Qin rose rapidly through the ranks and eventually struck gold when opportunity came. The Lis transformed from obscure villagers to Beijing's nouveau riche, their fortunes rising with the tide. Everyone praised me as the perfect homemaker. Only Li Qin refused to accept it. Our marriage crumbled under his relentless, screaming accusations. Jiang Huayan, I deeply regret marrying you. You deliberately lent Yiru money for an abortion. You've ruined her life. By then, he'd already brought Tang Yiru back from her self-imposed exile. The two became inseparable in public, all lovey-dovey with each other, without the slightest regard for me, his lawful wife. My kind-hearted mother-in-law and thoughtful sister-in-law kept advising me, Huayan sister-in-law, you should be more tolerant. Times have changed. What wealthy man doesn't have multiple wives? My son brother staying loyal to you, his plain and faithful wife, is already quite remarkable. Even my own son openly took sides against me and challenged me. Mom, count your blessings. Aunt Tang can't have kids and won't compete for the inheritance. She just wants recognition. What's the harm in giving her that? Go ask around. What wealthy family doesn't have a few illegitimate children? With Aunt Tang keeping Dad occupied, he won't have the energy to produce more siblings for me. What more could you possibly want? Do you even realize how exhausting it is for me to constantly play mediator between Dad, Grandma, and Auntie every single day? I don't even know what I'm dissatisfied about anymore. My elderly parents would grieve for my plight every time they saw Li Qin's scandalous tabloid stories. My father, a retired soldier who lived by the creed men shed blood, not tears, secretly wept alone in the dead of night where mother couldn't see. He never closed his eyes until the moment he passed. That failed marriage tore my dearest family members apart with heartbreak. Their lavish displays of splendor are but gilded robes crawling with lice. None know the bitterness that gnaws at my heart. After being reborn, everyone was outraged, cursing the runaway groom. To my immense relief, thank goodness, there's still time. While my parents took people to ambush Li Qin at his home, I went to the town's marriage registry office alone, retrieved the marriage certificate that still needed official stamping. On our wedding day, I forgot to bring the stamp certification. The kind-faced female clerk said understandingly, leave the documents here for now. Once you bring me the stamped proof, I'll complete the processing for you. Saves you making extra trips. I passed the milk candies I'd deliberately kept in my pocket through the window, retrieved our marriage certificate that still lacked the official seal. Thank you, I'm so grateful, I said through tears while bowing deeply. On the bus ride home, we passed through a deserted alleyway. A familiar figure flashed by. Li Qin held Tang Yiru tightly in his arms, overwhelmed with joy. Yiru, this time I won't let you face it alone. I'll take responsibility as a father. The woman blushed furiously, playfully pounding his chest. Tang Yiru accidentally met my gaze, then flinched in panic. I turned away indifferently, paying no further attention. In his past life, Li Qin always believed the child Tang Yiru carried was his. Only she and I knew the truth. It wasn't. That child belonged to Tang Yiru's college professor. The vivacious young girl and the refined married man fell for each other at first sight, too. Their forbidden romance intoxicated them both beyond reason. Later, the man chose fame and fortune, leaving abroad with his wife. He left without a word, abandoning her. Tangiru was devastated, and the discovery of her pregnancy sent her into a panic. She set her sights on her loyal backup Li Qin, getting him drunk in an attempt to force the relationship. I caught them in the act and put a stop to it. Tangiru knelt before me, sobbing pitifully, begging for a way out. Jiang Huayan, please lend me some money. I'll get an abortion. I'll just borrow Li Qin's name as cover, but I swear no one will ever find out. I couldn't quite explain what drove me. Perhaps it was solidarity between women, or pity for her misfortune and love. I kept it to myself. When Li Qin woke up, he simply thought he'd shared a fleeting romance with his unattainable crush, until he learned about Tangiru's abortion and subsequent infertility. After just a few days of anguish, they came to terms with reality. Fresh in the department, he was banking on his father-in-law's connections. We were in the honeymoon phase of our relationship. That's all I know. Later, he resented me for throwing my weight around and stifling his genuine affection. They hated me to the core, humiliating me publicly at every opportunity. Among the three of us, there was never a winner, everyone back in their rightful place. Things are finally falling into order. Ever since Li Qin jilted me at the altar, Dad's been carrying this guilt toward me. There were originally 2 potential marriage candidates. He favored Li Qin, praising him as no ordinary talent. He had excellent judgment. Li Qin's achievements in his past life were nationally renowned. No matter how good it is, I don't want it anymore. I've thought it through. In this world, women are expected to marry eventually, even decades from now. Unmarried career women will face gossip and judgment, let alone today. If I must marry, I'll choose the safest option available. So, my dad was completely shocked when he heard I wanted to marry, citing, "Sweetheart, let's choose carefully this time. You don't have to limit yourself to these 2 options. I'll introduce you to other suitable matches." I shook my head firmly. "Dad, it's him. Just ask if he's willing to marry me." Thinking about my past life, I wasn't entirely sure either. He'd probably agree, right? In my past life, that dark-skinned, muscular man heard about my wedding. He came running to me, drenched in sweat, but when he saw me in my red wedding dress, he left heartbroken. Every year, I receive a remittance and various essential supplies from the same location, though the exact address was withheld. I later looked it up. It was Siding's former military outpost. A decade later, everything stopped. I thought Siding had finally come around and settled down. I was genuinely happy for him. Only decades later did I learn he'd already sacrificed his life. In my past life, his name was engraved on a tombstone in the Martyrs' Cemetery, with a small inscription beside it, "My eternal love." Huayan, some cast me aside like worn-out shoes. Someone loved me for a lifetime within their limited years. I raised my eyes to see the man before me, sitting rigidly with his body tensed. On this day in our past life, he turned away with a heavy heart. In this lifetime, for reasons unknown, he's been stubbornly waiting at my doorstep, gazing at me relentlessly, citing, "Tough luck for you. I'm ready to marry, and you're still single. Guess we'll have to make do with each other." The man broke into a grin, his sharp features softening with warmth. "Not unlucky at all. I'd be delighted to escape the places and people I loathed. My parents took me straight to a courtyard house in Taipei. This was actually part of Mom's dowry, untouched since the day it was brought home. In my past life, my sister-in-law Li Mena kept making a scene about studying abroad. 3. Li Qin's face turned livid with refusal, while my mother-in-law sobbed under the blankets. The household was in constant uproar every single day. Li Mena begged me through tears, "Sis, please help me figure something out. Just 300,000 would do. I know you can make it happen. What else can I possibly do?" The Li family plays both good cop and bad cop. They're pressuring me to sell the house with subtle coercion, yet refuse to state their intentions outright. Even in the 90s, brides were still expected to drain their dowries to feed their in-laws' greed. It would damage our reputation if word got out. The well-preserved Sihiyuan sold for over 600,000 yuan. Li Mena took 300,000 yuan to study abroad, while Li Qin used the remainder to expand his business network. By the time I tried to buy back that courtyard later, the price had skyrocketed. Even if Li Qin steps in, he'd still need to weigh whether it's worth the trouble. To him, buying it for me was obviously not worth it. Mom transferred the deed of this courtyard to my name. It was decked out in festive red, brimming with joy. Siding and I got our marriage certificate and became husband and wife in the presence of our loved ones. Both sets of parents had tears in their eyes. Unexpectedly, right after paying respects to our parents, Siding was called away for an urgent mission. He was utterly disappointed, saying, "Guess we'll have to save the wedding night for when I get back." Before departure, he entrusted me with all his possessions. Repeating his instructions over and over, seeing the tension in his eyes, I smiled softly, rising on tiptoes. I brushed a fleeting touch before pulling away. "I'll be waiting for you to come home." Siding's strong hand gripped my waist tightly, his voice hoarse. "Okay." I'd resolved to repay Siding with absolute loyalty and trust. "I'll become better than my past self, more devoted, more at peace." Yet it never occurred to me that this lifetime's Siding bears no resemblance to that reticent man from before. In that past life, we'd only met a handful of times. Each time, Siding remained wordless, save for those smoldering dark glances. I never sensed any emotional fluctuations in him. I believed what he needed was a composed, gracious, and dignified wife. I'm confident no one could do better than me. Can someone explain this fiery, flamboyant, clingy man to me? What on earth is going on? I haven't left the bed for a week since he returned from his mission. When passion runs high, in fury, I tried to kick him, but he caught my foot and draped it over his shoulder, leading to an even more intense. My parents and in-laws have been living together since our wedding. My mom and mother-in-law hit it off so well that they bought adjacent houses. The parents spend their days together playing chess, knitting, and cooking. Never meddled in our lives, just quietly cared for us behind the scenes. The dinner table has clearly featured many special dishes these past few days: stir-fried chives with eggs, spicy kidney stir-fry, chicken soup with goji berries. My face burned crimson as I kept lowering my head further each day. Only shameless Siding still had the nerve to critique the dishes. "Mom, the chicken soup is a bit too salty." "Dad, the fish you caught today tastes muddy. Next time let it purge in clean water for a few days before cooking." No matter what request I made, both sets of parents would readily agree. Siding gloated, "Thanks to you, even if I asked for the jade rabbit from the moon, my old man would find a way to catch it for me to taste." They'd already resigned themselves to me being a lifelong bachelor. I shyly pinched his waist. That moment, instead of pulling away, he leaned his face closer. "Darling, right here on my cheek too. Just a few more kisses." These little moments are what keep me going on every mission. While I waited safely at home, his care packages and letters would arrive like clockwork every month: pressed mountain wildflowers, seashells from distant shores, breathtaking landscape photographs, and love letters overflowing with affection. "Huion, the mountain flowers are in bloom, but none as lovely, none as radiant as you. Huion," I whispered my love into a seashell. "Listen closely, can you hear my voice? Huion. Every cloud in the sky carries your shadow. I miss you terribly. Huion. I love you." Siding has arranged every aspect of my life with perfect stability. I no longer need to hustle around like in my past life just to make ends meet for the household. Now, no more worrying about meals for the family, my sister-in-law's grades, or my mother-in-law's daily herbal medicine. No more rising early to serve others or staying up late to weave clothes, like my grandmother. I have nimble hands that can decipher even the most intricate patterns at a glance and replicate them perfectly. 4. In a past life, Li Qin's boss, a cheerful, straightforward woman, was particularly fond of the trendy fashions from Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan featured in magazines. Li Qin pleaded with me to lend a hand. Despite just recovering from childbirth, I painstakingly recreated the exact same design to match her taste. The annual custom tailoring never failed to meet her expectations. For decades thereafter, whenever Li Qin faced any difficulties, that elder sister would resolve everything for Li Qin before he even asked, safeguarding his business empire every step of the way. Later, when the elder sister retired, Li Qin never visited her again, not even a single phone call. When I visited my eldest sister with the newly tailored coat, the legendary old lady lay on the porch rocking chair, sighing at me with a wistful smile. "Huion, you, such a simple soul. What will become of you?" Remembering Siding's kindness, I resolved to repay the favor. When I learned that the mother of our leader Siding, an elegant elderly lady, was particularly fond of Suzhou Hangzhou-style cheongsams, I seized every rare opportunity to meet her, working day and night to tailor several pieces. Seeing the garments I presented, with my bloodshot eyes from sleepless nights, Siding pressed her lips together, her eyes glistening with emotion. He said, "Darling, I can build my own future. I married you to give you a good life. Trust me, I'll make us proud. My wife's hands create such wonders. Pursue this as your passion or career. but never for my sake, don't let it chain you. The vibrant, smiling face before me now, contrasted with the solemn, grieving portrait etched on the tombstone in my memory. The dichotomy was striking. My heart swells with love beyond words, my lips parted to speak. Only a string of ugh escaped me. I'm pregnant. Sighting and both sets of parents were utterly stunned yet overjoyed by the news. The grandparents rushed to the ancestral home that very night to offer incense and kowtow. Thanks to our ancestors' blessings, that unfilial brat Sighting has finally proven somewhat useful. Before returning to his military unit, Sighting boasted shamelessly, "Old man, the one you should be kowtowing to is my wife. Without her, the C family line would have died out for sure." Before I could finish speaking, my mother-in-law chased me out with her feather duster. Sighting reluctantly rejoined his team. Far from neglecting me, my in-laws went out of their way to take care of me. My mother-in-law heard that free-range country eggs are more nutritious than store-bought ones. I made a special trip with Mom back to the village to buy eggs. When we returned that evening, Dad's booming voice reached us before we even stepped inside. "That goddamn little bastard. I'll kill him myself. First he jilts us to humiliate our family, now he's dragging Hwaiyan's name through the mud, he's asking for death." Mom hurried in, simultaneously calming my furious father while explaining the situation to me. Later, ran into Li Qin's mother when passing through Lijia village. After their whole family deliberately avoided us to humiliate ours, she actually had the nerve to ask why Hwaiyan hadn't delivered her medicine, claiming she'd run out. Thank goodness you didn't marry into that family. Every last one of them is rotten. That sister of his, probably in college now, even had the audacity to ask why you didn't wire her money last month. A whole pack of ungrateful wolves. Li Qin's father seemed decent enough back then, who'd have thought the rest of them would turn out so vile. Mother took a sip of water and sighed. Your mother-in-law overhearing this while holding her egg basket isn't the main concern. What worries me is them harboring resentment. Though we never hid the truth from them, hearing firsthand about their daughter-in-law being jilted at the altar must sting. If your mother-in-law speaks harshly to you lately, do try to bear with it patiently. Your father and I can both see that Sighting is a good young man. This difficult phase will pass soon enough. Dad flew into an even greater rage upon hearing this. What's there to endure? My daughter did nothing wrong. If it comes to divorce, so be it. I can support both my daughter and grandchild. Silence fell between them after these words. The atmosphere grew heavy. I'm feeling uneasy, wondering if my mother-in-law will tell Sighting about this. Would he misunderstand and think I'm only with him because I had no other choice? Will he be angry? Most likely, yes. Tossing and turning with worries, I finally fell asleep. Woke up the next morning to find my mother-in-law hadn't cooked or brought any food. Couldn't tell if it was relief or resignation in my heart. Strangely enough, my parents weren't home either. Before I could snap out of my wandering thoughts, a clamor of voices erupted outside the door. Let them off this time, but if that gossip monger keeps running her mouth, I'll break her son's damn legs. Uncle, we're coming with you. Sighting's away, and if we can't even handle this simple task of looking after his wife, what kind of sisters would we be, exactly? How dare that vicious woman spread such lies about Hwaiyan, such a decent man? I'd be fuming. Next time I see her loudmouthed daughter, I'll tear that lying tongue right out. Oh no, I forgot to cook for Hwaiyan. She must be starving. This is all your fault. I told you we should have come back right after moving. Where are the hen and eggs I bought? Who's got them? Hand them over now. Right here, ma'am. Not a single egg cracked. I held them tight the whole way. Granny later explained she never took Mother Lee's words to heart that day. She held her tongue only to avoid breaking the eggs in the basket. Hens lay few eggs in winter, yet she went door to door collecting them all to nourish me. The moment those eggs were returned, she immediately informed her father-in-law and relatives to band together and settle the score. The crowd ransacked Li Qin's home before reporting the incident to both the police and village chief. Li Qin's mother finally admitted that her earlier claim Jiang Hwaiyan slept with my son long ago was complete nonsense. The grandmother, a retired teacher, threw dignity aside as she grabbed Li's mother and delivered stinging slaps across her face. Between slaps, she raged, "Hwaiyan is such a wonderful girl. Your son didn't know how to cherish her. Your whole family must be blind. 5. If I ever hear you slandering my child again, I'll rip your damn mouth apart." My mother-in-law slapped several hundred-yuan bills into my palm. "This is compensation from that wretched woman for damaging your reputation," along with a written pledge. When the police showed up, she broke down crying and begging, saying she'd lost her mind. "Don't be afraid, Hwaiyan," with Sighting away, Your parents will protect you." My parents rushed over upon hearing the news, both shocked and remorseful, repeatedly complaining why my in-laws didn't take them along. My mother-in-law waved her hand with dramatic flourish. "We can handle our own child's grievances ourselves." I ran into Li Qin and Tangyiru again 5 years later on a Shenzhen street. That much was obvious. Li Qin seized his second chance at life and thrived spectacularly. The two were dressed in the latest fashion, cruising in their sedan. Spotting me waiting by the roadside, they couldn't help but feel a surge of superiority. Li Qin frowned, his face tense. "Jiang Huayan. My letter was just mailed 3 days ago and you're already here. You've been stalking me all along." "Me?" Li Qin tossed a business card impatiently. "Enough, I can't be bothered to argue. Come find me at this address tonight. I've got work for you." Tangyiru's eyes darted nervously as she bit her lip, shooting me a resentful glare. Before I could get a word out, the two got in the car, started the engine, and drove off without another word. A few minutes later, Xiao Sun arrived, drenched in sweat, and screeched to a halt. "Sister-in-law, something urgent came up with the team. Am I late?" I waved my hand, reassuring him. "I just got here myself. The timing's perfect. Let's go." Before getting into the car, I casually tossed Li Qin's business card into the trash. "For years ago, I gave birth to my daughter Wan Wan. Citing received a transfer assignment to Shenzhen, thousands of kilometers away. Both sets of grandparents couldn't bear to part with their granddaughter, yet didn't want us living apart either. Truly torn between two choices. I wasn't in a hurry, juggling childcare and college prep. I got into med school. This year, my daughter started kindergarten and made her own little circle of friends. Spoiled rotten by both sets of grandparents and acclimated to Beijing's climate, she flat out refused to move with me to Shenzhen. After getting my daughter's consent, I left her in the care of our parents and in-laws. Then came to Shenzhen with the admission notice to reunite with Citing. Perhaps the experiences from my past life affected me too deeply. Even though I still love crafting by hand, I can no longer bring myself to pick up scissors or needles. It fills me with tension. I gradually developed an interest in medicine. Citing encouraged me. "Darling, with hands as dexterous as ours, if embroidery needles don't suit you, then scalpels will. Whatever you choose to pursue, I'll support you." Now, after obtaining my degree, I applied for military spouse relocation and was transferred to Shenzhen Military Hospital. Today marks my first day reporting to the hospital. Never expected to run into that jerk on my very first day in this massive city. Talk about bad luck. Li Qin's words didn't even register with me. Neither he nor Tangyiru could stir the slightest emotion in me. So Citing and I managed both work and quality time without a hitch. Completely oblivious to the chaos unfolding on Li Qin's end, Li Qin kept checking his watch, pacing restlessly. "It's almost 8 o'clock. Why hasn't Jiang Huayan arrived yet? Director Gao will be arriving in a few days. I must make a good impression." Li Qin vividly recalled those early days working under this boss. It had been nothing short of grueling. 3 years later, Jiang Huayan's tailoring skills happened to perfectly match Director Gao's tastes. By arranging Jiang Huayan's transfer ahead of schedule this time, he'd secured powerful patronage much earlier than in his previous life. The mere thought of Jiang Huayan made Li Qin snort with derisive laughter. Just like in her past life, this woman remains utterly devoted to me. Not that I mind. I had planned to give her the cold shoulder for a few years, let her stew in her own misery, but eventually, I'd still marry her. After all, in her past life, she had been utterly devoted to him, tending to his mother and younger sister with such care that they were completely satisfied. She had even borne him such an exceptional son, one who mirrored his personality in every way. In this life, after he saved Iru, she also gave him a son. The only regret was that the boy bore no resemblance to him at all. At this thought, Li Qin found himself longing even more for his past life. Was it longing for his son, or nostalgia for that lofty, admired status? The chance to relive life and make amends felt undeniably good, but starting from scratch was daunting. Now he's just a minor clerk with modest means, a far cry from his former glory. No matter, Jiang Huayan would arrive shortly. Once she helps me win over Director Gao, I'll sell the Beijing property to fund my comeback. 6. With my past life's experience, I'm confident I can reclaim my glory within a decade. Li Qin didn't buy a single word about Jiang Huayan's supposed marriage that his mother and sister mentioned. This was clearly the Jiang family's face-saving charade after the humiliation of my broken engagement. I can't speak for other things. Li Qin was absolutely certain about Jiang Huayan from their past life. She was the kind of woman who'd give her whole heart and soul once she committed to someone. That's why, given a second chance at life, Li Qin chose to remarry Jiang Huayan even if it meant keeping his first love Tangyiru as a mistress. No one could be a better wife for me than Jiang Huayan. Tangyiru sat across from me with a beaming smile, beckoning me over. Miss Jiang, do try this coffee. They use Brazilian imported beans, hand ground. The flavor is exceptionally rich. I was utterly exasperated, completely baffled by what this couple was scheming. Just my luck, getting ambushed by Tangyiru while shopping for daily necessities. Tangyiru took a sip of coffee, gazing at me hesitantly. Sister Jiang, I've been waiting here for days. When you didn't come to our place last time, I thought you might have lost the address card and would return here. Never imagined I'd actually run into you. Our child with brother Qin is 4 now. You're welcome to visit any time. What happened before was our fault, but love itself isn't wrong. We'd really appreciate your blessing. Oh, got it. Tangyiru must be trying to obscure the timeline, making me think she got pregnant with Li Qin's child again after the abortion. But she probably doesn't know. Just yesterday, Li Qin confronted me and outright demanded that I shouldn't make things difficult for Tangyiru even after marrying into the Li family, just like how Yiru was willing to abort her pregnancy for my happiness. I can't betray such a devoted woman, so Jiang Huayan, you'll be the first wife while Yiru takes the secondary role. Even her children will call you mother. This is quite common in Xiangqing. What accomplished man doesn't have multiple wives? I expect you two to coexist peacefully. I knew these two were unhinged in my past life, but never imagined they'd be this deranged, especially when Tangyiru's son, who was sitting nearby eating cake, suddenly collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath. My duty as a doctor compelled me to rush over and administer first aid without a second thought. The child clearly had laryngeal edema caused by an allergic reaction and needed to be taken to the hospital immediately. As I frantically administered aid, Tangyiru, who had been sitting composed moments ago, now collapsed into the arms of the rushing man like a weeping willow, fragile, trembling, and utterly distraught. Qin Ji, save our son. I only wanted him to meet Sister Jiang earlier, but she deliberately fed him mangoes. I made it crystal clear that Kiki is allergic to mangoes. Li Qin's eyes burned with murderous fury, his glare so intense it seemed he wanted to tear me limb from limb. Without a word, he lunged forward, raising his hand to strike. As he stared in disbelief, I seized the pressure point on his wrist and pressed hard. The pain drained all color from Li Qin's face, leaving him drenched in sweat. You've got to be kidding. Don't you know how tough it is for us medical students? During lectures, our professors expect us to be able to carry a whole ox. Jiang Huayan, laying hands on a child, you're despicable. I never realized what a malicious woman you were. It seems I'll have to give you the cold shoulder for a while, otherwise. Li Qin kept rambling. I couldn't take it anymore and yelled, shut up, get him to the hospital, now. While the doctors were performing emergency resuscitation, before I could leave, Tangyiru grabbed my sleeve in tears, demanding an explanation. Not long after, Li Qin's mother and sister barged in again. Oh my precious grandson, grandma's heart is breaking. Li Mena glared at me with pure hatred. Li Qin held the softly sobbing Tangyiru, comforting her gently. Tangyiru looked at me in alarm, then quickly hid herself in Li Qin's arms again. Li Qin's face hardened, and he snapped, Jiang Huayan, apologize. I couldn't be bothered with that crazy couple, so I got up to leave, but Li Qin suddenly grabbed my arm. Amid the struggle, a puzzled voice came from behind, Director Jiang. What are you doing here? The department is waiting for your meeting. I turned to see a group of interns led by Xiaoyang passing by, quickly called for help to separate those troublesome Li family members and seized the chance to slip away. Li Qin's puzzled retort came from behind. What did you call Jiang Huayan? Director Jiang. Several enthusiastic interns confirmed. That's right, Director Jiang just transferred to our hospital. He's a top graduate from Beijing Medical University and Professor Cheng's most prized protege. It was dusk, the end of the workday. Just as I stepped out of the hospital, I ran into Li Qin waiting at the entrance. Jiang Huayan, you've been reborn too. No wonder Li Qin was so certain. In my past life, I accidentally gashed my ankle on sharp rocks while hiking with Sister Gao. The young female doctor's deft needlework while cleaning and stitching my wound utterly captivated me. For months after returning home, I kept practicing those movements. Who knew such a tiny needle could perform such magic beyond ordinary sewing? Li Qin scoffed at my infatuation, sneering, if you could become a doctor, pigs would fly. I looked at Li Qin with disdain. Now that I'm a doctor, I wonder if Mr. Li's pigs are flying yet. Li Qin's face flushed slightly, and he immediately launched into an accusation. Jiang Huayan, you clearly reincarnated ages ago, why didn't you come find me? You know I'm about to meet Sister Gao, and you're well aware she only wears clothes made by you. You're deliberately putting me in this spot to make me beg, aren't you? Let me remind you, everything I do is for our future. Don't you want to reclaim that aristocratic lifestyle from our past lives sooner? Quit your hospital job immediately, go home, focus on dressmaking, and help care for my mother. Your years as a doctor should make you better at elderly care, consider it an advantage. I'm utterly sick of Li Qin's entitled attitude. In my past life, I only knew him as someone who'd kick others when they're down and burn bridges after crossing them, never realized he had this nauseatingly inflated ego too. As quitting time approached, familiar co-workers began trickling out in twos and threes. They eyed Li Qin and me standing by the entrance with obvious curiosity. Li Qin swaggered over to grab my hand, his face radiating smug certainty. My face turned cold as I slapped his hand away. 7. Take one more step and I'll call security. This is a military hospital. Their guards could take down 3 of you single-handedly, and spare me the narcissism. I'm married. Li Qin froze. Impossible, he scoffed. You'd never marry anyone but me. Me, how could I? She married me, my lawful, government-recognized lifelong partner. Who the hell are you to question that? I turned around in delighted surprise. Siding strode forward and clasped my hand, our fingers intertwining. Too happy to mind the company, I blurted out. Weren't you supposed to return tomorrow? The man lowered his head, his voice hoarse. Missed you, rushed back through the night. That day, Li Qin chased after us with bitter reluctance. Detained by Ting's security personnel, he was kept at a distance. All I heard was his hoarse, desperate shout. Jiang Huayan, you can only marry me, you belong to no one else. Ting caressed my fingers tenderly before scoffing. Dream on. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Every time, I can't help thinking, what a disgrace it'd be for a proper med student like me to die of exhaustion in bed. Siding always leisurely pulls the blanket over himself. Honey, you're overthinking it. Even your mentor said you're the most hardworking student he's ever taught, with excellent physical stamina. For the next 2 months, I voluntarily requested a transfer to the branch office for teaching research. By the time I returned to Shenzhen again, it was already late autumn. My colleagues say there's this strange man who stands outside the hospital entrance every single day, rain or shine. He shadows the medical staff like clockwork, arriving and leaving with their shifts. Intern Yan gave a vivid account. At first security thought he was some creep. But when they realized he just stood there dumbly, probably waiting for someone, they stopped bothering him. Director Jiang, you should have seen it. This perfectly decent-looking guy suddenly bursting into tears out of nowhere, gave me the chills. Honestly, the very next day after Xiaoyang's gossip, I found myself cornered by Li Qin at the hospital entrance. Noticing the security guard's nervous expressions, I waved my hand reassuringly. Huayan, I was wrong, I've been so arrogant. But I've realized my mistakes now. Please come back to me. Li Qin blurted out anxiously, terrified I'd have him thrown out. He broke down in tears, pleading desperately. We were husband and wife for so long in our past life, and we even had a son together. You should marry me. We already got our marriage license. Leave him. I don't care about your past. I'll take you as my wife. I stared at him calmly, with a mix of serenity and impatience. Li Qin, after you ran out on our wedding, I was overjoyed. When I was reborn, I was terrified I might have already married you. So the moment you fled, I rushed to the city to withdraw our marriage application. Li Qin stood there, stunned. I continued speaking. My husband and I married long ago. We have an adorable daughter. She's such a sweetheart. She never has to play favorites between her father and grandmother. The whole family dotes on her beyond measure. Remembering her past life, Li Qin gave a bitter half-smile. Rendered speechless, with red-rimmed eyes, Li Qin said, Huayan, I know I was wrong. I only meant to keep you waiting a few years. I never meant to abandon you. I wrote you a letter every year, but I just found out Iru secretly took them back. See, it wasn't my fault. Give me another chance. Think about our son. He's so much like me, so outstanding. I'm begging you, Huayan, I was truly wrong. I'm utterly disgusted by Li Qin's persistent pestering, but remembering my promise to Siding, I forced myself to hold back. Otherwise, Siding said he'd rather take disciplinary action than tolerate that clingy rival in love. I laid bare every one of Li Qin's underhanded schemes. Li Qin, You just can't bear to lose the cost-effectiveness I represent, someone who manages your household while expanding your professional network. You simply realized your so-called unattainable crush turned out to be underwhelming, never matching the benefits Jiang Huayan brought you as a wife. Thinking of that son who's your spitting image only makes me more relieved. I've grown utterly cold toward him. He's your carbon copy, equally selfish, heartless, and profit-driven, just like you. He expects the whole world to bow to his whims. Whether you admit your faults means nothing to me. In my past life, I fulfilled every duty as a wife, mother, and daughter-in-law. Marrying into your Li family was pure revulsion. You've no idea how I've regretted it, every single day and night. By the end, the sight of your face turned my stomach, still does, right this moment. Li Qin seemed to finally collapse under the weight of it all, slumping to the ground with undisguised shock etched across his face, muttering to myself, how could this? I turned away in disgust, refusing to spare him another glance. Li Qin, if I ever see you again in this lifetime, you'll regret it. You wouldn't want to experience how my husband deals with enemies. Li Qin vanished from my world completely. Taking his entire family with him, Siding asked with vinegar-dripping sarcasm, are you reluctant to let me go beat him up? I rolled my eyes at him, you idiot, he's not worth a single strand of your hair, it'd be a waste to sacrifice your future for him. The easily pacified man calmed down like a lion with smoothed fur. Much later, I still made a point of befriending Sister Gao. 8. Definitely not giving clothes. In her past life, she suffered from severe asthma and nearly died during a business trip once. I made a point to remind her. She was deeply touched and thanked me profusely. During casual conversation, she shared an amusing anecdote. A few years back, a subordinate kept gifting her trendy designer clothes at completely inappropriate occasions. The flashy yet ill-suited presents became utterly exasperating. She eventually transferred the subordinate to a remote department out of sight, out of mind. Later, I heard that subordinate went into business for himself. Shenzhen was the first city to open up during the reform era, so it was quite common for people to do that. However, he took out high-interest loans to fund his ventures, and the projects he invested in lacked any real appeal. Without support, they naturally couldn't sustain themselves. Eventually, he lost all his money. His mistress left him a letter and ran off with their son. The letter stated that the son he had raised for several years was not his biological child, but rather the love child of her and her first love. Now, the child's biological father is back, and her heart truly belongs to her first love. She thanked him for his generous acceptance of her in the past and believed he would understand why she took the remaining savings. After all, she still had a child to raise, and the child had called him dad a few times. The elderly mother learned that the grandson she'd doted on for years wasn't her own flesh and blood. The shock gave her a stroke, and she passed away within days. A broken man sat clutching letters by the churning waves, lost in thought. After that day, he was never seen again. I'd heard it before and forgotten it, like just another common story. Si Ting has been missing her daughter these past few years, always trying to coax her into staying longer during summer and winter breaks. Both sets of parents were quite displeased with this vying for attention. I once subtly brought up the idea of having another child. Siding hugged me with a smile and declined. We agreed long ago, just one child, boy or girl, she'll have all our love. Huayan, you're my everything. I only have room in my heart to love one more person. Any more would stretch me too thin. Hand in hand we'll walk this life's journey, growing old together. He guards our homeland. I heal the wounded. At 82. Surrounded by children and grandchildren, Siding closed his eyes peacefully in my arms. While sorting through his belongings, I found our wedding photo tucked inside one of his treasured books. The young couple nestled together, sweet yet strangely unfamiliar. The calligraphy shows formidable strength through the paper. Huayan, my eternal love. Story 2. When we got our marriage certificate, Lu Jianan told me he didn't know how to love, so for 5 years of marriage, he gave me all his passion and desire. It was an arranged marriage between families. I knew I shouldn't be greedy, and thought this would be enough, until our anniversary night. I broke his bedroom rule for the first time, secretly removing the blindfold, yet I accidentally saw the name tattooed on the dimple of his back. That was the moment I realized, Lu Jianan wasn't incapable of love, he just hid it secretly, reserving it all for my younger sister. We had a fierce argument, wishing each other dead in that moment. Little did I know, those words would prove prophetic. Both of them perished in a car crash over the cliff. Before dying, Lu Jianan, his face covered in blood, looked at me and pleaded, Ruotang, if there's a next life, Let's not be husband and wife anymore, okay? I stared at him, laughing miserably like a madwoman. When I opened my eyes again, I saw Lu Jianan kneeling upright on the ground. Uncle and aunt, I can't marry Ruotang. The one I love is Jiang Ying. I was taken aback, but I quickly let it go, as it happened that I didn't want to choose him this time either. 1. Are you really sure you want to marry a Yu? Mother Lu seemed somewhat reluctant, but I calmly exchanged the marriage certificate with her. After confirming the name on it was Lu Jiayu, I smiled gently. It's confirmed, Auntie, Mother Lu earnestly advised once more. Fortune tellers all say Ayu won't live past 30, you, Ruotang. Even if Jianan disagrees with the arranged marriage, you don't have to limit your choice of husband to just the Lu family. In his previous life, Lu Jiayu did indeed die at the age of 30. At that time, his mother fainted from crying, and his father aged significantly overnight. Everyone mourned his untimely passing. He was remarkable, becoming the head of the Lu family at such a young age. Beneath his frail body lay the most resolute heart. Before his death, I had intended to see him one last time, yet from his lips came the words, I like Jiang Ruotang. Whatever I've done, she doesn't need to know. I only wish for her happiness. He said not all love needs to be spoken aloud, not all love demands reciprocation. So year after year, apart from his assistant, no one knew. His love was buried too deep. So deep that I never noticed even a hint of it, until his final moment when he left this world with endless regrets. So, even if it's just for this I also want to help him, at least not let him die with regrets. After a long while, I raised a smile and gently patted the back of her hand, comforting her. Auntie, Lu Jiayu will live a long life, too. After Lu's mother left, my own mother came to ask me, are you really not just acting out of spite towards Lu Jianan? She knew how much I liked Lu Jianan, childhood sweethearts. From the moment my first love blossomed, no other boy could compare in my eyes. I thought he felt the same, but I never imagined it had always been my unrequited love all along. In my past life, when Lu Jianan and I got our marriage certificate, he told me, I've lived surrounded by schemes since childhood. I don't understand love, nor do I know how to love. But whatever I can give, I'll give to you. Married for 5 years. We were famously known in our circle as the perfect match, a loving couple. So to maintain this marriage, I was willing to teach Lu Jianan how to love me, and I could indulge his occasional willfulness, even his preferences in bed, I could tolerate. In our past life, Lu Jianan would always hand me a blindfold or use a tie to cover my eyes before bed, saying, Tang's eyes are too beautiful, I'm afraid I might lose control and hurt you. Every time, I'd blush so hard the tips of my ears turned red. Later, once or twice, he forgot to cover my eyes. Overjoyed, I wanted to see his impassioned expression, but he just coaxed me to change positions, then tenderly kissed my back inch by inch as if to appease me. We almost never faced each other, and I simply assumed it was Lu Jianan's habit, until the 5th anniversary, the first time I secretly removed my blindfold. I accidentally discovered the name tattooed in the dimple of his back. Humiliation and betrayal washed over me simultaneously. At that moment, I felt as if I'd plunged into an ice cellar. I went berserk, smashing everything in the bedroom, grabbing an ashtray and hurling it at Lu Jianan. I hurled every vile insult imaginable, wishing him dead with every fiber of my being, cursing him to the deepest pits of hell. Yet given another chance, I found myself wanting nothing more than to stay far away from him. Think carefully. Lu Jianan indeed treated me very well, except that he didn't love me. 3. The engagement banquet is scheduled for next month. Mrs. Lu said these matters would be handled by the Lu family, and I just needed to wait peacefully. She gave me the opportunity to back out at any time. I smiled helplessly and replied, this isn't fair to Lu Jiayu, he's just sick. I messaged the research institute's assistant to prepare the lab equipment for me. In my previous life, after Lu Jiayu's heart transplant, I locked myself in the lab for a while researching antibacterial drugs. By the time the drugs were ready for production, he had already passed away from infection. I hope we can make it in time this time. Suddenly, Lu Jianan sent me a message. Come to the G Club, I need to discuss something with you. I refused directly. The first thing Lu Jianan did after being reborn was to come to my house to cancel our arranged marriage and confess his love to my adopted sister Jiang Ying. To make Jiang Ying happy, he set off fireworks all night long. The topic about them remained at the top of the trending list, with everyone praising them as a perfect match. Paparazzi even captured a video of them strolling by the seaside. Jiang Ying seemed tired from walking and coquettishly asked Lu Jianan to carry her. I initially thought he would refuse, but he didn't. With a doting smile, he knelt on one knee, gently massaged her ankles first, and then carried her effortlessly, his movements fluid and tender, a netizen commented. Young Master Lu is truly head over heels for Jiang Ying. During this time, he stayed by Jiang Ying's side, dutifully trying to please her and pampering her like a little princess. He was making every effort to make up for the regrets of his past life, wanting to live a different kind of life. I don't object, as long as it doesn't involve me, but in the end, I still came to the G Club, though not because of Lu Jianan. I want to meet Lu Jiayu, and his assistant called me back. Miss Jiang. President Lu is discussing business at Jiui. If it's urgent, you can come directly. I frowned subconsciously and couldn't help but tease. Still drinking while sick, is he afraid death won't come fast enough? The assistant on the other end immediately went silent. After a long silence, only a faint cough could be heard. In the end, the assistant hastily left a private room number before hanging up the phone. Surprisingly, Lu Jianan seemed certain I would come. Having sent someone to watch for me here early on, the moment I showed my face, 2 bodyguards at the entrance forcibly brought me to Lu Jianan's private room. After pushing the door open, he immediately pressed hard on my shoulders, forcing me to kneel on the ground. The coldness seeping from the floor into my knees, a sense of humiliation washed over me once again. I clenched my fists and stared at the man before me. Lu Jianan, are you out of your mind? The private room was dimly lit. Lu Jianan bit a cigarette from the pack, lit it, took a drag, and exhaled a wisp of white smoke. I didn't want it to come to this either. If you refuse to cooperate and won't call off the engagement, don't blame me for playing dirty. My mind instantly went blank. Lu Jianan and I had clearly cancelled our wedding long ago. Could it be that he still doesn't know? I instinctively struggled a bit, opening my mouth to explain. Lu Jianan had already walked up to me, holding a glass of wine and pinching my chin. Ruotang, don't blame me. I just wanted to live the life I desired for once. As long as you're tainted, they won't force me to marry you. I stared fixedly at Lu Jianan, my eyes brimming with boundless sorrow. My heart ached so badly it felt like it was convulsing. The bond of childhood sweethearts, 5 years of marriage, truly trampled into the dirt. So you're going to drug me and send me to someone else's bed? For a moment, Lu Jianan seemed to be in a daze, his thin lips pressed tightly together, his movements pausing for just 2 seconds. In the end, he forcibly poured the wine into my mouth. The Lu family has been busy preparing for our engagement banquet these past 2 days. I truly can't wait any longer. I've found you a suitable young master from a matching family. He will take responsibility for you and marry you. Lu Jianan, you're crazy, you've truly gone mad. I struggled desperately to break free from his grip, but there were still 2 bodyguards behind me. Their strength was overwhelming, making resistance impossible. The liquor surged violently down my throat. The intense irritation sent me into uncontrollable coughing. My face flushed crimson as spilled wine trickled down my chin, soaking the shirt on my chest, clinging tightly to my skin. Ruotang, be good. His voice was soft as he reached to wipe the wine stain from the corner of my mouth. The bodyguard had already released me by this point. I was panting heavily, still looking somewhat disheveled, my hands weakly braced against the floor as tears welled up in my eyes from the physical strain. My red lips curled into a self-deprecating smile. Lu Jianan, I'm not going to marry you, nor will I ever marry you. He smiled contemptuously upon hearing this. Are you really sure? Ruotang, I know you too well. I know how much you like me, so I have no choice but to do this. He was so confident, so certain. Suddenly, Jiang Ying appeared at the door of the private room, clutching her skirt tightly, her gaze fixed directly on me. Her voice trembled slightly. Sister, Jianan, you. Lu Jianan's body stiffened abruptly, his smile freezing at the corner of his lips. Aang, why are you here? Who brought you here? This place is so dirty, you shouldn't have come. He walked helplessly to Jiang Ying's front, his voice gentle, movements soft and obedient. At this moment, he resembled a devout believer, his eyes overflowing with nothing but sincere affection. That was a side of him I had never seen before. Indeed, the line between love and its absence is starkly clear. I stared at Lu Jianan for a long time, an indescribable bitterness welling up inside me. People are truly strange. In my past life, after I married Lu Jianan, Jiang Ying went abroad and never returned. He now always regrets the past, but if he had wanted to marry her back then, who could have stopped him? If he truly loved her that much, a ticket to the U.S., just over 2,000 yuan. But did Lu Jianan ever go to see Jiang Ying? No. Sometimes I don't know whether to be grateful that he was loyal enough to me in my past life, or to be glad that he was cowardly and weak. Lu Jianan coaxed Jiangning to go home. She pursed her lips without saying much, her eyes holding unreadable emotions as she looked at me. In the end, I was left alone at the spot. 5. The drug's effects hit quickly. The 2 bodyguards stood guard at the door as Lu Jianan instructed, waiting for the well-matched young master he had arranged to arrive. I bit my lower lip, leaning against the nearby table as I struggled unsteadily to stand up. But my legs felt weak, and I nearly stumbled and fell. A strong arm suddenly reached out from behind to steady me. Miss Jiang, be careful. It was Lu Jiayu's assistant. I was slightly panting, my cheeks flushed. Lu Jianan had administered a considerable dose, enough to break down my defenses. Miss Jiang, you've been drugged. I didn't respond to him, just weakly grabbed the wine bottle on the table, as I was about to press the sharp glass shard against my arm after smashing it with a bang. Lu Jiayu in the wheelchair was the first to react. He reached out and grabbed my wrist, frowning tightly. I have a doctor on call, don't hurt yourself. Suddenly, I froze, my pupils slightly unfocused. Lu Jiayu's hands were cold, his palms soft, making one yearn for more, to be touched by him, to be caressed by him. I couldn't resist leaning closer to his face, staring at his thin lips. Mr. Lu, may I kiss you? I blinked my eyes. Lu Jiayu's fingers trembled slightly, and his assistant behind him coughed in fright. Miss Jiang, our sir's health, perhaps, not very. Before he could finish, I paused in my movements, eventually nodding blankly. Reason had ultimately triumphed over desire. Lu Jiayu gave his assistant a cool glance, prompting the assistant to clear his throat and excuse himself to call for the doctor. The bodyguards outside have already been taken care of by Lu Jiayu's people, including the young master of the Zhou family who was just about to enter. It took almost half an hour of struggle. The effects of the drug finally subsided somewhat, and I sat weakly on the sofa, but Lu Jiayu's brow remained tightly furrowed. I didn't know Lu Jianan would do something like this. It's my fault for putting you in such danger. I'm sorry, I didn't think it through properly. His eyes were filled with remorse. Lu Jiayu and Lu Jianan were polar opposites, one gentle, refined, and humble, the other unruly and arrogant. The heavens truly are unfair, to let such a good person die at the age of 30. Seeing my prolonged silence, Lu Jiayu's face darkened further as he said earnestly, Miss Jiang, I will make Jianan apologize to you. This matter won't be left unsettled. He will pay the price. As the words fell, I looked up just in time to catch the fleeting emotion in his eyes. Lu Jiayu was angry, because Lu Jianan hurt me, in my past life. I accidentally overheard that he liked me, and later I simply kept this matter buried in my heart. I never told anyone. At this moment, I suddenly wanted to ask Lu Jiayu why he liked me. Before I realized it, the words had already slipped out. His expression froze for a moment before he stiffly replied, Miss Jiang, what did you say? I repeated, I want to ask Mr. Lu, why do you like me? The assistant tactfully exited the private room, leaving only me and Lu Jiayu inside. His thin lips pressed into a tight line. A long moment passed without him answering my question. Instead, he asked, what about you? Why did you choose to marry me? Fortune tellers all say I won't live past 30. Lu Jiayu's voice was hoarse, as if mustering the courage to test for an answer. Because Lu Jiayu is wonderful. I leaned slightly forward from the sofa, reaching out to touch his furrowed brow. The fortune teller was wrong. Lu Jiayu, smile for me, and I promise you'll live 100 years. Everyone says you won't live past 30, but I insist you live 100 years. I want you to live. Lu Jiayu pressed his lips together, staring straight at me, his long restrained emotions seeming on the verge of breaking free, but in just 2 seconds, he masked it all perfectly again. Miss Jiang, I'll take your kind words as a good omen, I said. Lu Jiayu, trust me this once. After a long while, he finally nodded. With the experimental data results from my past life, with the backing of the Jiang and Lu families, the research institute can put the new antibacterial drug into production as early as next week. This time, I hope heaven will show a little more favor to Lu Jiayu. 6. The date of the engagement with Lu Jiayu is drawing nearer by the day, with only the invitations left to be sent out. And Lu Jianan actually still thinks I'm getting engaged to him. Due to the drugging incident, Lu Jianan received 30 lashes of family discipline and was confined for 5 days. The moment he was released, he rushed straight to my house. When I came downstairs and saw the butler attending to him, I instinctively frowned. His complexion didn't look too good, somewhat pale, When he saw me, he immediately walked over. Tang. I instinctively took a step back. His movements paused briefly before he continued as if nothing had happened. Drugging you was reckless of me. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have used such extreme methods to humiliate you. Lu Jianan lowered his head in apology. I merely curved my lips, not a trace of warmth in my eyes. No need for apologies, Lu Jianan. It's best if we each go our separate ways from now on, and avoid crossing paths. Lu Jianan immediately shook his head and said, Tang, I was wrong. I promise nothing like this will happen again. If my brother hadn't saved you that day, I might have caused irreversible consequences. Tang, I truly know I was wrong. I shouldn't have trampled on your feelings. I know you really wanted to marry me. I know your devotion. He paused, as if steeling his resolve. After a long silence, he finally spoke in a hoarse voice. Tang, I'll marry you. Consider this my way of making up for drugging you. Suddenly, the living room fell into dead silence. I stared fixedly at Lu Jianan, unable to suppress a cold laugh in my heart. Jiang Ying appeared at the stairway at some unknown moment, her eyes slightly red, her voice tinged with grievance. Jianan, what about me then? Didn't you say you were going to marry me? How can you go back on your word? A flash of panic crossed Lu Jianan's eyes as he instinctively glanced at me, but ultimately walked past me to stand before Jiang Ying. I'm sorry, Tang is deeply in love with me, and I don't want to hurt her. Jiang Ying cried harder and more miserably, making Lu Jianan even more flustered as he fumbled to comfort her. See how much he loves Jiang Ying. Now I seem like the villain who's ruining their relationship. I don't want to watch this drama anymore. As I turned to leave, Lu Jianan's hesitant voice came through. Tang, I won't go back on my word. I smiled mockingly, but I had already changed my mind long ago, if possible. I wish I had never met Lu Jianan in my previous life either. 7. After comforting Jiang Ying, Lu Jianan sat in her room, his thoughts drifting far away. He and Jiang Ruotang grew up together as childhood sweethearts. Jiang Ruotang liked him, so she had always treated him well, and after marriage, her kindness towards him only increased. She even accepted all his rules in bed without exception. He originally thought it would be fine to continue living like this, until Jiang Ruotang discovered the tattoo on his lower back. That was when he was 15 years old. In the school dance studio, he witnessed Jiang Ying's breathtaking dance, the ethereal silhouette behind the white gauze stirring his heartstrings. From then on, he could never forget it. Jiang Ying appears in his dreams day and night. He thought about confessing his feelings to her, but her eyes never held a place for him. As long as Jiang Ruotang is around, she seems to only see Jiang Ruotang. Content to be her most obedient adopted sister, he was terrified of causing trouble for Jiang Ying, so he kept his feelings buried deep, secretly tattooing her name on the small of his back. For 10 years, he never forgot that dance, nor did he forget Jiang Ying. In his past life, if Jiang Ruotang hadn't insisted on making a scene, he thought they wouldn't have met their end by falling off a cliff together. Fortunately, he was reborn. This time he couldn't afford any more regrets. So he proposed breaking off the engagement to Jiang Ruotang and confessed his feelings to Jiang Ying. He tried every means to cancel the engagement, even going so far as to drug Jiang Ruotang, but for some unknown reason, his heart still felt hollow, not as joyful as expected. 30 lashes and 3 days in confinement made him realize he still wanted to marry Jiang Ruotang, even though it was Jiang Ying he loved. Jianan, do you really like my sister? Suddenly, Jiang Ying's voice pulled Lu Jianan back from his thoughts. He snapped out of his daze and met Jiang Ying's tearful eyes, saying with heartache, I don't like Tang, I only like you. But if you don't like her, why did you marry her? Lu Jianan pressed his lips together, not answering immediately. This was a question he couldn't even understand himself. He only knew he couldn't let Jiang Ruotang go. Since Jiang Ruotang loved him, she should belong to him. Before he could answer, Jiang Ying asked again, then, Jianan, what do you like about me? Hearing this, Lu Jianan's lips immediately curved into a smile. He couldn't wait to share his secret with Jiang Ying, saying, when I was young, I accidentally saw you rehearsing in the dance studio, and since then, I could never forget you. You could say it was love at first sight. After saying this, Jiang Ying's expression changed slightly as she stared fixedly at Lu Jianan. The love in her eyes was practically overflowing. But she only found it ironic and ridiculous, because she couldn't dance at all. For a fleeting moment, Lu Jianan caught a glimpse of disgust flashing through her eyes, but upon closer look, Jiang Ying's lips curled slightly upward, reverting to her usual gentle and delicate demeanor. Jianan, thank you for liking me. 8. There are only 5 days left until the engagement banquet. The experiment for the new antibacterial drug is progressing smoothly, and a suitable heart is being matched simultaneously. I had just taken off my goggles and stepped out of the lab when I saw Lu Jiayu waiting outside. He was sitting in a wheelchair, and as the temperature in Beijing had dropped, a blanket was draped over his knees. His face was still pale, but at least it looked better than when we first met. There was a bit more color in his cheeks now. I leaned down closer to him and smiled gently. It seems my medicine still works, Mr. Lu. I'm spending a fortune to keep you alive. How about repaying me with your hand in marriage? Lu Jiayu's ear tips instantly turned red. He covered his lips with his hand, cleared his throat, and turned his face away. Then he signaled his assistant behind him to hand me the invitation. I naturally took it over. Only then did he respond with a word, "All right." I chuckled softly, and after opening the invitation, my gaze lingered slightly upon seeing our names side by side. A surge of indescribable emotion welled up in my heart simultaneously. In my past life, the engagement banquet between me and Lu Jianan was almost entirely arranged by his mother and mine. The Lu family provided a substantial betrothal gift, but compared to Lu Jiayu in this lifetime, it wasn't even 1/10,000th of what he offered. He nearly gave me all of his family's assets. I recognized his handwriting. When I first received the invitation, I had even complimented the person who wrote it, never imagining that person would be Lu Jiayu. I couldn't begin to imagine Lu Jiayu personally writing down my name alongside Lu Jianan's. "What's on your mind? Is it sincere blessings or full of regrets?" Seeing my prolonged silence, Lu Jiayu thought there was an issue with the invitation and asked worriedly, "Is there something wrong with how it's written?" "This is my first time writing. I don't have much experience." My mother suggested leaving it to the professionals, but I thought, doing this kind of thing myself would be more meaningful. He frowned, and even his assistant couldn't stand it anymore. Lu Jiayu held a high position, even with his frail health. He had never bowed his head to anyone, yet he was always so humble and cautious with me. "Just because you like me, Miss Jiang." Mr. Lu spent days writing the invitation. "Even if you don't like it." "I never said I didn't like it," I calmly interrupted him, then turned my gaze to Lu Jiayu. "Ayu's handwriting is very beautiful." As I finished speaking, I flashed him a smile. Only then did Lu Jiayu's tense expression relax, his eyes gradually filling with amusement. Just as he was about to speak, an uninvited guest arrived at the lab. "Bro, what are you doing here?" 9. Lu Jianan's suspicious gaze fell upon Lu Jiayu until his peripheral vision caught sight of the invitation in my hand. Then he raised an eyebrow and said, "You could have just sent an assistant to deliver the invitation. Brother, you're not in good health. There's no need to push yourself." He walked past Lu Jiayu. When he familiarly tried to take my hand, I avoided it, leaving his gesture hanging mid-air. "A Tang, Lu Jianan. Perhaps you should look at the name on the invitation first." I handed the invitation to Lu Jianan. The marriage between the Lu and Jiang families has been the talk of the town lately. How could Lu Jianan be so oblivious? Even now, he hasn't realized that the person I'm engaged to isn't him. Lu Jianan might have sensed something was amiss, finally willing to open the invitation for a glance. His expression instantly stiffened the next second, when he clearly saw the names on it. He looked at me in disbelief. "You're marrying Lu Jiayu, Jiang Ruotang. Have you lost your mind? Everyone says Lu Jiayu won't live past 30, and you still want to marry him. Are you prepared to be a widow in all but name?" he growled, his face flushing crimson. Lu Jiayu sat in his wheelchair, his sharp dark eyes flickering with complex emotions as he restrained the surging turmoil within, but in the end, he remained silent. In this relationship, he was too humble, not even daring to harbor the slightest hope. I wish he could say to Lu Jianan, "Jiang Ruotang is my fiancée, your sister-in-law." Yet he looked at me, the light in his eyes gradually faded. "Jiang Ruotang, I know you're angry with me, but you can't use your lifelong happiness to spite me," Lu Jianan said through gritted teeth, and I just said calmly, "I'm not being spiteful, Lu Jianan. I've told you many times, I won't marry you, and I don't love you anymore. You're just too full of yourself. You like Jiang Ying. So I'm stepping aside, so I'm going to marry you. And you stay out of it, okay?" The moment the final words fell, Lu Jianan stood frozen in place, his eyes bloodshot, his lips parted slightly, his expression full of shock. He couldn't believe these words had come from my mouth. Even more unbelievable was that the person who once cherished him above all else no longer loved him. After a long silence, he clenched his teeth and said stubbornly, "You're lying to me, Jiang Ruotang. You're lying to me." I didn't respond to him anymore. Is it me deceiving him, or is he deceiving himself? He knows it perfectly well in his heart. 10. Lu Jianan tore up the invitation and left. He still refuses to believe that this engagement banquet truly has nothing to do with him, but I'm not obligated to explain anymore. In this lifetime, he chose the path he always wanted to take, so he shouldn't regret it. Actually, Kanan was right. After a long silence, Lu Jiayu finally spoke up. He looked at me with an inscrutable gaze. This time, I didn't say anything more. Actually, I'm somewhat disappointed. Lu Jiayu didn't believe he could survive, so likewise, he never believed in me either. On the way sending me back, Lu Jiayu kept glancing at me from the corner of his eye, but I never looked at him, just calmly gazed out the window until the car stopped outside the Jiang family villa. As I was getting off the car, Lu Jiayu finally spoke again, asking in a low voice like a child who had done something wrong, Ruotang, are you angry with me? I pressed my lips together without speaking and turned my face to look at him. Lu Jiayu said earnestly, Ruotang, if I've made you angry, it's my fault, but please believe me, it was unintentional. I asked, Lu Jiayu, don't you believe I can keep you alive? He froze. Suddenly, I let out a low chuckle. I understand now. Lu Jiayu, the engagement banquet is in 5 days, you can cancel any time. This time, the choice is yours. After saying that, I got out of the car and left. I knew Lu Jiayu was watching me the whole time, but I didn't look back. Thinking oneself infallible seems to be a common flaw of all people. Lu Jianan is no exception, and neither am I. I thought I could help him. I thought that by marrying him, he would have no regrets. Yet it seems I never asked whether Lu Jiayu was willing. 11. The Jiang family villa was brightly lit. The moment I entered the foyer, I saw Lu Jianan kneeling stiffly before my mother, just like the day he was reborn, only that time he was begging to cancel our marriage, but this time it's exactly the opposite. Auntie, I was immature back then, I shouldn't have insisted on canceling the arranged marriage with a Tang. All the faults are mine, but you can't let a Tang marry my brother. His affair with Jiang Ying has become public knowledge recently, and mother has long been disappointed in him. Even though she wasn't entirely satisfied with my marriage to Lu Jiayu at first, he later proved himself in every possible way. Every detail of this engagement banquet was personally overseen by him. My mother could clearly see who genuinely cared for me. Just as she frowned and was about to send Lu Jianan away, she looked up and saw me. I smiled and told my mother, I'll handle this. Mother nodded and went upstairs. The living room was left with only me and Lu Jianan. He looked at me, propped himself up from the table with his right hand, and stood up, having knelt for a while. His knees were somewhat numb, and he almost lost his balance. I frowned. I thought I had made myself clear enough. What are you doing coming to my house again? Lu Jianan froze, his gaze turning somewhat resentful. Tang, I only want what's best for you. What's best for me? I let out a mocking chuckle, then raised my eyes to stare at Lu Jianan as I stepped closer to him. Lu Jianan, don't you like Jiang Ying? Now that you've gotten your wish, we've called off the engagement, you're free to marry Jiang Ying. What exactly are you still unhappy about? As soon as my words fell, Lu Jianan's breath hitched slightly, his expression blank for a moment. I don't know. I thought it should be like this too, but I can't watch you marry Lu Jiayu. He stared at me with piercing eyes, glowing red in their depths. I just found it hilarious. That's just how Lu Jianan is, heaven's favored son who acts willfully without consequence, knowing someone will always clean up his messes. Nor does he ever understand the concept of empathy. I will always remember, once when a typhoon hit the capital, Lu Jianan stubbornly craved cakes from Nanjing Street and insisted I go buy them. With no choice, I drove through the rain to get them for him, a 4-hour round trip. By the time I got home, it was already past midnight. Coincidentally that day, I'd forgotten my keys and called Lu Jianan multiple times, but he never answered. Later he explained to me that he had fallen asleep, so he didn't hear the phone, but I knew he wasn't asleep. It was just too cold and he was too lazy to get out of bed. Wanting cake was just a passing whim, but if he asks, I have to give it to him. Why? Because I like Lu Jianan. I can only search for sweetness among broken glass. Liking him is an exhausting and painful thing, but I persisted for 10 years, and I truly can't go on anymore, nor do I want to. After a long silence, I said weakly, Lu Jianan, you can't have your cake and eat it too, but you clearly like me. Choosing Lu Jiayu, isn't that just settling for second best? You've liked me for so long. How could you suddenly change? I don't believe it. Lu Jianan looked at me unwillingly. while I just curled my lips mockingly and said coldly, "Why don't you understand yet? I stopped liking you long ago." 12. The living room fell into dead silence. Lu Jianan pressed his lips together in prolonged silence, the pain in his eyes clearly visible. As I moved past him to leave, he suddenly raised his hand to grab my arm, his voice soft and tentative as he asked, Tang, have you also come back?" I froze for a moment but didn't deny it. Lu Jianan seemed to understand instantly. The corners of his lips curled into a self-mocking arc as his fingers clenched my arm so tightly his knuckles turned white. I couldn't help but frown slightly as tears welled up in his eyes. No wonder you didn't choose me anymore, Tang, since you've also come back. You know Lu Jiayu will die at 30, why would you still choose him? Why would you choose him over me?" he growled, his voice breaking toward the end as his entire body trembled. Lu Jianan's sudden outburst stirred a pang of bitterness in my heart. I'd rarely seen him cry, the only time was when he begged me on his deathbed, his face covered in blood yet still pleading with me in desperation, "If there's a next life, let's not be husband and wife anymore." Okay, but now you see, I've already agreed to him, already made the promise. But Lu Jianan is still not satisfied. He's asking for too much, I can't give it. "Lu Jianan, you should go back." He shook his head desperately, trying to stay by my side like he used to, but Lu Jianan forgot. Only the beloved have the privilege to act willfully. "I won't leave, Tang, give me one more chance. I won't make mistakes again, won't let you feel sad or hurt anymore. I've liked Jiangying for so many years, I thought I'd keep loving her forever, but I realized it's different. I don't know what to do either. I just know that without you, I would truly die." The more he spoke, the more pained he became, cautiously moving closer to me as he tried to take my hand. I avoided it, then looked up at him calmly and said, "Lu Jianan, this was your choice. No one will wait for you in the same place forever, so you can't blame me, nor can you go back on your word." The moment my words fell, all color drained from Lu Jianan's face. 12. Lu Jianan was asked to leave the villa, but he didn't go, stubbornly remaining standing in the courtyard. His gaze was fixed unblinkingly on the tightly shut door. Jiangying went out from home, though no one knew what she said to him. Suddenly, he went berserk, gripping Jiangying's neck with a deathly hold, his eyes bulging with fury, until a passing security guard forcibly separated them. Only then could Jiangying catch her breath. No one knows what she said to Lu Jianan, but at night, she came to me. Jiangying knocked on my door. "Sister, can I come in?" I raised an eyebrow, looked up at her, and nodded. There were still visible red marks on her neck, left by Lu Jianan's choking. Jiangying was someone I picked up at the school gate when we were young. She was 6, I was 8, small and soft, just with a dirty face. I begged my mother to adopt her, to make her my little sister. All these years, I treated her well. Whatever I had, she had too. When people accused her of flaunting my name to bully others, she'd bare her teeth and fight back. I knew she wasn't exactly kind. But Jiangying has never hurt me. She obediently walked up to me and asked in a soft, gentle voice, "Sister, you haven't spoken to me these past few days. Is it because of what happened at the club that day?" I was startled, then smiled. "No, Lu Jiayu told me that day. They were able to find me in time because Jiangying sent the message promptly." "Sister, Lu Jianan is not someone worthy of entrusting your life to. I know you don't want to marry him either. That's why I've just been pretending with him." I only, halfway through her words, she paused, her eyes filling with disgust, "wanted to help you get rid of his pestering. He's not good enough for you." I stared fixedly at her, pressing my lips together without speaking. In my past life, after I married Lu Jianan, Jiangying left without even attending the wedding. She only left me a wedding gift. For years afterward, we rarely kept in touch, so I never regarded Jiangying as a love rival, whether in my past life or this one. I never blamed her. She did nothing wrong. It was Lu Jianan who was at fault. After a long silence, I asked her, "What did you say to Lu Jianan?" Jiangying's expression visibly stiffened before she finally tried to appease me by hooking her pinky with mine, saying, "It's not important, the important thing is that annoying Lu Jianan is finally gone." I nodded suspiciously. The following days, I didn't see Lu Jianan again, and thought he had finally given up, until the day of the engagement banquet. Lu Jianan suddenly burst into the dressing room and locked me inside. He held me and cried like a child, looking even paler than a few days ago, his eyes bloodshot. He kept repeating, "I was wrong, Tang, I was wrong. It was my blindness. I mistook you for someone else. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I failed you." Only then did I realize what Jiang Ying had said to him that day. Lu Jianan lifted his shirt, gazing at me pitifully. The tattoo on his waist had been removed, only to be replaced with my name. At that moment, I only felt Lu Jianan was pitiful and ridiculous. He begged for my forgiveness, pleaded for me to give him another chance, yet I remained silent, just calmly gazing at the boy I had loved for 10 years. Heaven truly has a way of playing tricks on people. In the end, Lu Jianan was knocked unconscious by bodyguards and dragged away. 13. The day before the engagement banquet, Lu Jiayu came to see me on his own initiative that day. He didn't say or do anything, just sat quietly in the lab watching me work all day, occasionally lending a hand. Lu Jiayu asked me out for dinner after I got off work. Actually, in our previous lives, we had almost no interaction beyond family banquets and rarely met privately. I once asked Lu Jiayu why he liked me, but he didn't answer. But that day, he gave me the answer. At 15, a breathtaking dance. When I heard these words, my heart skipped a beat. He said, "It's not that I don't trust you, I just don't trust myself, Ruotang. No one wants to live more than I do, and no one wishes for your happiness more than I do. He's just scared, terrified. If he really died at 30, what should I do? How should I spend those long years? He's afraid I'll be lonely. Afraid I'll have to face the darkness alone. Even if he could make all the preparations before his death, he's still afraid there might be something he overlooked." Only later did I come to realize, I thought Lu Jiayu and I had no connection, only because he hid it too well. The anonymous annual investment in the research institute, every thoughtful arrangement at each banquet I attended, the most satisfying birthday gift every year, even including my grand wedding in the previous life, the one-of-a-kind wedding dress, and the ring I designed myself. Lu Jianan thought this was just Lu Jiayu's deepest blessing as an elder brother, yet no one had ever imagined, hidden within this are Lu Jiayu's countless mountains and rivers. He has walked such a long road alone. Fortunately, this time, I saw it. 14. Half a month after the engagement banquet, Lu Jiayu successfully underwent a heart transplant surgery. The new medication caused no adverse reactions in him. In his previous life, his body was extremely weak. He didn't survive past the 20th day before succumbing to infection and passing away, but this time, he survived. Over 3 months, the entire Lu family wept with joy. In the hospital room, Lu Jiayu sat leaning against the bed, his gaze fixed on me. "Uncle and aunt, I can't marry Ruotang. The one I love is Jiang Ying." And after a long pause, he finally said, "Ruotang, thank you." I curved my lips slightly, leaned forward a little, and just like that time we met at the club, reached out to touch his eyebrows. "I told you, if you smile, I'll guarantee you a long life of 100 years. As the words fell, Lu Jiayu smiled. Half a year later, I saw Lu Jianan once. He hit someone while drunk driving, was sentenced to 3 years, and the once proud son of heaven fell into the mire. No one would indulge his willfulness anymore. Just like in our past life, Jiang Yingru left the country the day before my wedding with Lu Jiayu, leaving me another wedding gift. The farce was finally over, and I, Lu Jiayu, no longer walked alone. The end.